Hey guys, tonight we begin the story of the most heroic and legendary king in English history, Richard the Lionheart. He is the great crusader, the peerless warrior, the very symbol of medieval chivalry. But what if I told you this quintessential English hero barely spoke a word of English, spent less than 6 months of his entire 10-year reign in England, and viewed the country he ruled primarily as a piggy bank to fund his foreign wars? The true story of Richard is far more complex, more continental, and far more interesting than the simple legend. So, before you get comfortable, if you enjoy these quiet dives into the forgotten realities behind the myths, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And as always, I'd love to know where you are listening from. Now, let's travel back to the glittering but treacherous courts of the 12th century. Dim the lights, and ease into the story of a prince who would become a legend. What if you were born in the year 1157, at Beaumont Palace in Oxford, England? You are Richard the Third and favourite, son of two of the most powerful and formidable people in the entire medieval world, King Henry II of England and the brilliant, indomitable Eleanor of Aquitaine. The good news: you are born into the heart of the vast Angevin Empire, a sprawling collection of territories that stretches from the borders of Scotland down to the Pyrenees Mountains in southern France. The bad news: you have been born into the most spectacularly dysfunctional family in Europe. A collection of geniuses and vipers, whose titanic ambitions and bitter resentments will soon plunge their own empire into a series of devastating civil wars. This is the first great, defining fact of your life. You are not truly English. You are French. While you were born in England, you spend your formative years not in the damp, foggy climes of London, but in the sun-drenched, vibrant, and politically rebellious Duchy of Aquitaine in southern France. It is your mother's ancestral land, and it becomes your cultural and spiritual home. Your first language is not English, but French, and the sophisticated Occitan dialect of the south. You are raised in your mother's glittering court at Poitiers, a famous centre of art, music, and poetry. This is an obscure but vital part of your identity. You are a product of the troubadour culture. You are surrounded by the courts of love, by complex ideals of chivalry, and by the finest poets and musicians in Europe. You do not just appreciate this culture, you participate in it. You write your own poetry, you compose your own songs. You are a warrior, yes, but you are a poet-warrior, a man whose romantic, chivalrous, and often theatrical persona is forged here in the heart of France. But this idyllic world of poetry and power has a dark, venomous undercurrent, a poison that runs through the very heart of your own family. Your father, Henry II, is a king of boundless energy and ambition, a genius of law and administration. He is also a ruthless tyrant with a notoriously explosive temper and a wandering eye. Your mother, Eleanor, is his equal in every way, brilliant, cunning, and possessed of an iron will. And they have come to despise each other. Their marriage has devolved into a bitter, political Cold War. And you and your brothers, Henry the young king, Geoffrey, and the youngest, Jannar the pawns in their great game. Your mother adores you. You are her favorite son, the child who inherits her Aquitanian spirit. This powerful bond will shape your entire life, and it will ultimately pit you in a deadly, tragic struggle against your own father, Henry II, in an attempt to solve the problem of his ambitious sons, has had your older brother, Henry, crowned as co-king. But he gives him no real power. He names you Duke of Aquitaine and Geoffrey, Duke of Brittany. He gives you titles, but he refuses to relinquish any actual control over your lands. He wants you to be rulers in name only. This is a recipe for disaster. You are a young man, now, in your teens, full of pride and the arrogance of youth. You have been told you are the ruler of a great duchy, but you are not allowed to rule. Your own father constantly undermines your authority, meddles in your affairs, and treats you like a child. You would learn your first great lessons in warfare not against a foreign enemy, but against your own rebellious Aquitanian barons. And soon, you will be asked to turn those skills against your own family. A conflict that will teach you a brutal lesson about the nature of power and loyalty. Whether the constant rebellions of your father's sons were driven by genuine political grievances and the king's refusal to delegate power, or by the manipulative scheming of your mother, Eleanor, and her ex-husband, the King of France, is a question that historians still debate. What is certain is that, in 1173, when you are just 16 years old, the simmering resentment of your family explodes into open war. Your older brother, the young King Henry, flees to the French court and, with the support of the King of France, declares war on your father. He asks you and your brother Geoffrey to join him. You are now faced with a terrible, defining choice. Do you remain loyal to your father, the powerful king who refuses you any real authority? Or do you join your brothers in a great, heroic, and deeply treasonous rebellion to claim the power that you believe is yours by right? The decision you make will set the course for the rest of your violent, restless, and legendary life. You are 16 years old, a prince and a poet, standing at a crossroads. Before you lighter paths, both steeped in betrayal, you can remain loyal to your father, King Henry II, the man who gave you your title but denies you any real power, and in doing so, betray your mother and brothers. Or, you can join the rebellion. You make your choice, you choose your mother. You choose war. You ride to Paris, to the court of King Louis VII of France, your father's greatest and most persistent enemy. There, you kneel before him, a profound act of feudal defiance. You pledge your sword to his cause against your own father. Family holidays will be very tense from now on. This is the next great, defining chapter of your life, the Great Revolt of 1173 to 1174. It is a massive, continent-spanning, family civil war. This is not a noble crusade against a foreign infidel. It is a messy, brutal, and deeply unnatural conflict. You are fighting for your inheritance, for your power, for your mother's honor. You are also fighting against your own father's armies, which are commanded by men you have known your entire life. It is a very confusing and emotionally complicated business. The precise motivations for your rebellion are complex. Was it the simple, Oedipal rage of an ambitious son against a domineering father? Was it the sophisticated political maneuvering of your mother, Eleanor, using you as her pawn? Or were you a genuine Duke of Aquitaine, a callback to your upbringing, fighting for the autonomy of your people against a distant English king? It was, in all likelihood, a chaotic and volatile combination of all three. What is certain is that you have just broken your sacred feudal oath of loyalty to your liege lord, who also happens to be your father. It is the most profound act of treason a medieval nobleman can commit. The King of France knights you, formally making you a warrior. He then sends you back to your own duchy Aquitaine, to raise the banner of revolt. This is your first true military command. You are a natural. You are charismatic, energetic, and utterly fearless in battle. You rally the rebellious barons of Aquitaine to your cause, men who are always eager for an excuse to fight against their Angevin overlords. You learn the grim art of war, not in a tournament, but in a series of brutal sieges and lightning-fast raids against your own father's castles. But your father, Henry II, is a military genius of almost supernatural energy. While you and your brothers are stirring up trouble in France, he is in England, crushing a rebellion there. Then he crosses the Channel with an army of loyal mercenaries. He is a whirlwind of strategic brilliance. He captures your mother, Eleanor, the heart of the rebellion, as she tries to flee in disguise. She will spend the next 16 years as your father's prisoner, a fact that will become a source of deep, burning resentment for you. After more than a year of brutal attritional fighting, your great rebellion fails. Your father, indefatigable and relentless, crushes your armies one by one. Your older brother Henry and your brother Geoffrey are forced to surrender. You, in Aquitaine, are the last to hold out. But you are isolated and outnumbered. Finally, you too must admit defeat. You travel to your father's court and perform the most humiliating act of your young life. You kneel before him, in front of all his loyal barons, and you beg for his forgiveness. Your first great attempt at seizing power has ended in total, abject failure. Your father is surprisingly merciful by the standards of the day. He does not execute you or your brothers for your treason. He does not even take away your titles. He simply takes back all of your castles, reaffirms his absolute authority, and gives you a slightly reduced allowance. You have been utterly defeated, shamed, and put back in your place like a disobedient child. But you have learned a valuable lesson. Your father is a formidable, almost unbeatable opponent. The seeds of hatred and mistrust sown in this war, however, will never die. They will only lie dormant, waiting in the cold, hard ground of your heart, waiting for another chance to grow. And you know, with a chilling certainty, that there will be another chance. Your great rebellion has failed. A callback to the absolute power of your father. You have been thoroughly and humiliatingly defeated. You have been forgiven, but you have not been forgotten. You are sent back to your own Duchy of Aquitaine, the land you were raised in, the land you love. But this is not a peaceful retirement. This is your next test. And this is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your new job, assigned to you by your father the king, is to brutally suppress a rebellion in Aquitaine that is, in many ways, exactly like the one you just led against him. You must now become the very thing you once fought against, the iron-fisted hand of the central authority. This is a major historical fact of your early adulthood. The Duchy of Aquitaine, a callback to its proud and independent culture, is notoriously, almost ungovernably, rebellious. Its powerful, local barons despise being ruled by anyone, especially by a distant king in England or his upstart son. While you were away fighting your father, they had seized the opportunity to rise up themselves. You are now a young man in your late teens and early 20s, and your father has given you a clear, unspoken command. Tame this land. Tame your own people. Prove your loyalty to him by crushing those who would defy you. You learn that the only way to rule the proud and stubborn lords of Aquitaine is through a campaign of swift, terrifying, and methodical violence. Whether your reputation for cruelty during these campaigns was an exaggeration by your enemies, or an accurate reflection of a young ruler who had learned from his father that absolute power must be established through absolute fear, is a matter of historical perspective. What is certain is that you are no longer the charming troubadour prince of your youth. You are a warlord. And you discover that you are very, very good at it. You spend the next decade in an almost constant state of petty, grinding warfare against your own vassals. It is a miserable, thankless task. These are not grand battles for the glory of Christendom. They are ugly little sieges of your neighbors' castles. One of your most famous acts from this period is the siege of the supposedly impregnable fortress of Tailborg in 1179. This is an obscure but telling display of your emerging military genius. The castle, held by a notoriously rebellious baron, was considered unconquerable. You arrive with your army, survey its defenses, and instead of settling in for a long, boring siege, you launch a ferocious surprise assault and take the fortress in a matter of days. This victory cements your reputation as a brilliant and fearsome military commander, but it also hardens you. The chivalric ideals you learned in your mother's court are now being tempered with a cold, brutal pragmatism. You are learning that mercy is a luxury, and fear is a more reliable tool. While you are busy fighting your own ugly civil war in the south, your brothers, Henry the young king and Geoffrey of Brittany, are busy plotting new rebellions of their own against your father. Family get-togethers in your dynasty are less about feasting and more about checking for assassins and renegotiating fragile temporary alliances. It is a stressful social environment. This brutal campaign in Aquitaine teaches you how to be a king. It teaches you logistics, siegecraft, and the delicate, violent art of managing powerful and treacherous men. But these lessons come at a cost. You are becoming estranged from your own people, the very people of Aquitaine you were raised to love and protect. You are now their conqueror, their enforcer, and you are becoming more and more like your father, a brilliant, energetic, and ruthless ruler who trusts no one. The same tactics you are now using to crush your own rebellious barons, you will one day dream of using on a much larger stage in a holy land far to the east. But you do not know it yet. For now, your entire world is this endless, exhausting, and deeply personal war to tame the beautiful, rebellious land of your own inheritance. You have spent the better part of a decade as a warlord in your own duchy. You have crushed the rebellious barons of Aquitaine, a callback to the brutal lessons you learned in your first war. You are no longer a boy playing at being a duke. You are a formidable and feared military commander in your own right. And just as you have finally secured a fragile peace in your own lands, your family decides it is time for another catastrophic and deeply personal war. You have just finished a 10-year war against your own subjects. As a reward for your hard work, you are now plunged into a new war against your own brothers. Your family is a relentless engine of conflict, a perpetual motion machine powered by ambition and mutual resentment. The year is 1183. The trouble, as it often does, starts with your older brother, Henry the young king. He is the crowned heir to England and Normandy. But he is a king with no real power, a callback to the situation that started the last great rebellion. He is restless, ambitious, and deeply in debt. And he decides he wants more. He demands that you, his younger brother, pay him feudal homage for your duchy of Aquitaine. It is a political power play, an attempt to make you his subordinate. You, a man who now considers Aquitaine to be his own personal kingdom, a land you have bled for, refuse. Your refusal is the spark that ignites the new family inferno. Your older brother Henry and your younger brother Geoffrey form an alliance against you. They then do the unthinkable. They invade your lands, your home, Aquitaine, and they do so with the gleeful support of your father's greatest enemy, the new, young, and incredibly cunning King of France, Philip II. The political alliances in your family are now so complicated and shift so quickly. You probably need a flowchart to keep track of who you are supposed to be killing this week. It is brother against brother, a war of bitter, personal hatred. But then the situation becomes even more bizarre. Your father, King Henry II, seeing his two eldest sons trying to destroy his third, decides to intervene. He marches an army into Aquitaine, ostensibly to help you, his loyal son, against your rebellious brothers. But you do not trust him. You know his true goal is to use this crisis to reassert his own absolute control over your duchy. You are now fighting a chaotic, three-way war against one brother. With the reluctant help of your father, who you also consider your primary long-term opponent. It is a deeply dysfunctional and profoundly sucky situation. The war is a messy, brutal affair of raids and sieges. And then, in the middle of the campaign, in the summer of 1183, fate intervenes in a sudden and shocking way. Your brother and chief rival, Henry the young king, the crowned heir to the entire Angevin Empire, contracts dysentery. He dies, quickly and miserably, in the middle of his own rebellion. It is a tragic, pathetic, and deeply anticlimactic end for a man who was once the great hope of the dynasty. It is also an incredible career opportunity for you. The true feelings between you and your brother are complex. Were you bitter rivals, as the conflict suggests? Or was there a deeper, brotherly bond? Evidenced by the stories that you were secretly devastated by his death and, in a gesture of profound grief, went to pray at his funeral bier. What is certain is that his death changes everything. Suddenly, the war is over. And you, Richard, the third son, the rebel, the duke of the most troublesome province, are now the primary heir to the throne of England and the entire Angevin Empire. This is not a moment of triumph. It is a moment of immense, terrifying gravity. The prize you have been fighting for your entire life, the power you have craved, is now suddenly within your grasp. But your brother's death does not solve the family's problems. It only rearranges them. Your father now wants you to give up Aquitaine, your home, to your youngest and favorite brother, John. You refuse. The grief over one dead brother is immediately replaced by a new, simmering conflict with your father over your inheritance. You are now the heir, but you have one younger brother left, the grasping and treacherous John. And you have your father, a man who still does not trust you. You do not know it yet, but this family drama is not over. It is merely entering its final, and most bitter, chapter. You are now the heir to the Angevin Empire, but the death of your older brother has not brought peace. It has only clarified the battle lines. Your father, King Henry II, is now an old lion, ailing and weary, but still dangerous. And he does not trust you. He refuses to officially name you as his sole successor. Instead, he demands that you give up your beloved Aquitaine, your home and your power base, to your youngest, and now his favorite brother, John. You refuse. The Cold War between you and your father, which has defined your entire life, is about to turn hot for the last time. This is the next reason it sucks to be you, to secure the throne that is yours by right. You must wage one last, brutal, and deeply unnatural war against your own aging father. The final years of the 1180s are a miserable, tangled web of broken treaties, secret alliances, and constant, low-grade warfare. You are trapped in a political vice. On one side is your father, the king you are sworn to obey but who seems determined to disinherit you. On the other is the young, brilliant, and incredibly cunning King Philip II of France. The man whose entire life's work is dedicated to dismantling your family's empire piece by piece. You decide that the only way to secure your inheritance is to form an alliance with your father's greatest enemy. It is a deeply ironic and very effective business decision. The enemy of your father is now your best friend and your new liege lord. This leads to an obscure but powerfully symbolic moment of betrayal. In 1188, at a diplomatic conference at the traditional meeting spot near a great elm tree at Jesor, you and your father meet with King Philip. The talks collapse into angry accusations. And there, in front of the entire French and Angevin courts, you do the unthinkable. You publicly kneel before King Philip, and you pay him homage for all of your family's lands in France, Aquitaine, Normandy, you are publicly declaring that your ultimate loyalty is now to the King of France, not to your own father, the King of England. It is a definitive, treasonous, and unforgivable act. In the spring of 1189, you and Philip launch your final, coordinated campaign against your father. Henry II, now old, sick with a peptic ulcer, and increasingly isolated, is caught completely off guard by the speed and ferocity of your attack. You are no longer the hot-headed boy of the First Rebellion, a callback to your earlier failure. You are now a seasoned, ruthless, and brilliant military commander, the man they call the Lionheart, and you are hunting your own father. The campaign is not a glorious war. It is a sad, pathetic chase across the French countryside. You conquer his cities, you defeat his armies, and you pursue him relentlessly. He is a sick, broken, and defeated old man, forced to flee from his own triumphant son. Finally, you corner him. Near the city of Tours, you force him to accept a humiliating peace treaty. He must reaffirm you as his sole heir. He must pay a massive indemnity to the King of France. And, in the final, bitterest clause, he must give you the kiss of peace, a formal act of reconciliation and forgiveness. But as you meet to exchange this kiss, your father, his eyes burning with a final, hateful fire, whispers in your ear, "May God not let me die until I have taken a worthy revenge on you." A few days later, while lying in his sickbed, he asks to see the list of the barons who had betrayed him to join your side. The first name on the list is that of his youngest, most beloved son. John, the discovery that even his favorite had turned against him, is the final blow. It breaks his heart. He turns his face to the wall, and a few days later, in July of 1189, the great King Henry II dies, reportedly muttering, "Shame, shame on a conquered king. You have won, you are now the king, and you have achieved it by hounding your own father to his miserable, lonely, and heartbroken death. It is a glorious moment, but it is a victory that tastes of ash. You have the crown, but you have earned it through an act of profound and unnatural betrayal. You have won with the help of the brilliant and cunning King of France. And now, you must prepare to go on a holy crusade to the east with this very same man. A man who has proven he is a master at manipulating your family's spectacular dysfunction. This will not be a problem at all, surely. You are now King of England, Duke of Normandy, Duke of Aquitaine, Count of Anjou, and Lord of Cyprus and Ireland. Though you haven't actually conquered those last two yet, you are, by the grace of God and your recent, successful treason, one of the most powerful monarchs in Europe. And this is the next reason it sucks to be you. At least, from the perspective of the people you are now supposed to govern, you have absolutely no interest in your primary job. You are the King of England, a land you have barely visited, whose language you do not speak, and which you view primarily as a large, damp, and very profitable farm, whose sole purpose is to produce the cash you need for your one true passion, a glorious, holy war in a distant land. Your coronation in Westminster Abbey is a magnificent and solemn occasion. It is also immediately followed by a brutal anti-Jewish pogrom in the streets of London, a wave of violence you do little to stop, setting a grim tone for your reign. You have not come to England to be a lawgiver or an administrator. You have come here to liquidate its assets. This is a major and defining historical fact of your rule. Your single, all-consuming obsession is the Third Crusade. News has reached Europe that the great Saladin has recaptured Jerusalem from the Christians. The Pope has called for a new crusade to win it back. And you, a callback to the chivalrous poet prince of your youth, see this as your ultimate calling, your destiny. But crusades are not just holy wars. They are ruinously expensive. So you begin your reign with what has been described as a grand yard sale of England. You put a price tag on every single office, title, and piece of royal property that isn't nailed down. You sell sheriffdoms to the highest bidder. You sell castles. You sell royal lands. You sell bishoprics. You famously quip, "I would have sold London itself if I could find a buyer." It is a stunning display of cynical, short-term fundraising. You are essentially taking out a massive, non-refundable loan from the entire population of England, collateralized by the very structure of their government. You also enforce, with a ruthless new efficiency, a tax that had been instituted by your father, the Saladin tithe. This is an obscure but deeply unpopular tax, a levy on all revenues and movable properties to fund a holy war. You squeeze every last penny you can from your English subjects. Whether your almost total disregard for England was a result of your French upbringing and personal preference, or a pragmatic decision that the security of the Holy Land was genuinely more important than the domestic governance of your northern kingdom, is a central question of your reign. From the perspective of the English peasant whose pig has just been taxed to pay for your adventure, the distinction is probably meaningless. Your goal is to amass a treasure so vast that it will fund the greatest crusading army the world has ever seen. This is driven, in part, by your piety, but it is also driven by your intense personal and political rivalry with the other great leader of the crusade, your former ally and current frenemy, King Philip II of France. You are in a race with him, a competition to see who can be the greater, more glorious champion of Christendom. And you are determined to win. After just a few months in your new kingdom, a country you will not see again for almost 5 years, you are ready. You have amassed a colossal war chest. You have appointed a set of unpopular and power-hungry administrators to govern the kingdom in your absence. A decision that will have absolutely no negative consequences later on. And you have placed your deeply untrustworthy younger brother, John, in a position of immense power, a move that will also, surely, be fine. In the summer of 1190, you sail from England, leaving the country you are king of, but not from behind. You are not a king fleeing a problem. You are a king running towards his true passion. The sucky reality for the people of England is that their heroic, lion-hearted king has just sold their country for parts to fund his personal quest for glory on the other side of the world. And the sucky reality for you is that you are about to sail headlong into a nest of vipers of international politics, disease, and military frustration that will make your dysfunctional family squabbles look like a polite disagreement over tea. You have your money, you have your army. You are now on your way to the Holy Land to win eternal glory for yourself and to recapture Jerusalem for Christendom. But this is the next reason it sucks to be you. You are a brilliant warrior, but you are a catastrophically bad tourist. Your journey to the Holy Land is not a direct, purposeful voyage. It is a long, meandering, and deeply problematic series of detours, during which you will manage to alienate your most important allies, conquer a neutral Christian kingdom, and generally cause a major international incident before you even lay eyes on an enemy soldier. You and your great rival, King Philip of France, have agreed to travel to the Holy Land together to present a united Christian front. You both sail with your massive fleets and decide to spend the winter of 1190 in the rich and strategically important kingdom of Sicily. Placing two massive rival medieval armies in one small, crowded port city for 6 months is a brilliant plan that will certainly not lead to any problems at all. You arrive in the city of Messina to find a political situation that is, even by the standards of your own dysfunctional family, a complete mess. The old Norman king of Sicily, William II has recently died. He was married to your younger sister, Joan. The new king, a man named Tancred, has seized the throne and, for good measure, has imprisoned your sister, the Dowager Queen, and refused to hand over her inheritance. You, a man with a notoriously short fuse and a deep-seated belief that the best way to solve any problem is with overwhelming force, do not take this news well. Whether your subsequent actions were a calculated act of power politics to secure more funding and show your strength, or simply a classic Angevin fit of explosive, righteous rage on behalf of your imprisoned sister, is a matter of interpretation. As with your father, a callback to his infamous temper, your rage and your political goals were often conveniently and destructively aligned. Your response is not to open, delicate, lengthy negotiations. Your response is to storm and capture a Greek monastery that overlooks the city. You then issue a series of non-negotiable demands to King Tancred for your sister's immediate release and the payment of her full, massive dower. While this is happening, your own soldiers, the thousands of restless English and French troops, now packed into the city, begin to cause trouble. Fights break out with the local Greek-speaking citizens of Messina, who are not at all happy about having their city turned into an armed camp. The tensions escalate until the people of Messina rise up, shut the city gates, and man the walls, trapping some of your soldiers inside. You are now in a full-blown crisis. You are a crusader, on a holy mission to fight the Saracens, and you are about to lay siege to a Christian city. You try to negotiate with the citizens, but, in the middle of the talks, they are emboldened and attack your forces. Your famous temper finally snaps. You order a full-scale assault. Your men storm the walls, overwhelm the defenders, and take the city. You then allow your army to sack and plunder Messina. You have just conquered a neutral Christian city and are now occupying it. Your great ally, King Philip of France, who is also wintering in the city with his own army, is absolutely horrified. He sees you not as a righteous defender of your sister's honor, but as an arrogant, untrustworthy, and uncontrollably violent brute who has just attacked a Christian city for personal gain. You have managed to start a major political incident with your own allies before you have even seen a single Saracen. The cracks in the foundation of the Third Crusade are already beginning to show, and you are the one holding the hammer. You eventually make a deal with King Tancred. He releases your sister and pays you a massive amount of silver. You have gotten what you wanted. But you have also shown your true colors to the entire crusading world. You are not a pious pilgrim. You are a warlord, a man who will use his army to get whatever he wants, regardless of the diplomatic consequences. The deep, personal mistrust between you and King Philip, born from this disastrous Sicilian vacation, will poison your relationship for the rest of the campaign and will ultimately be one of the primary reasons for its failure. You finally set sail from Sicily in the spring of 1191, leaving behind a resentful local population and a deeply suspicious French king. You are, at last, on your way to the Holy Land to fight the Saracens. The universe, however, seems to have other plans for you. A callback to your previous bad luck, your incredible talent for attracting trouble is about to strike again. As your massive fleet sails across the Mediterranean, it is hit by a violent storm. The ships are scattered. Most of your fleet manages to limp to the safety of Rhodes, but several ships are lost, including the one carrying your royal treasury and, most alarmingly, the vessel carrying your sister Joan and your new fiancée, Berengaria of Navarre. You discover that their ship has been wrecked on the coast of the island of Cyprus. The island is ruled by a renegade Byzantine prince and self-proclaimed emperor named Isaac Komnenos. a man of immense arrogance and spectacularly poor judgment. He decides that the best way to treat the shipwrecked sister and fiancée of the most famously violent and hot-tempered king in Europe is to plunder their ship and take them prisoner. This is a catastrophically bad idea. When you arrive at Cyprus and learn what has happened, your famous Angevin rage, a callback to the temper you share with your father, ignites. You are a crusader, on your way to fight for God. You are also now a man whose family and money have been stolen by a petty, opportunistic tyrant. You send envoys to Isaac, demanding the immediate release of your relatives and the return of all your treasure. Isaac, convinced of his own importance, refuses. This is the moment your holy pilgrimage takes another violent and deeply unholy detour. You are a crusader, on your way to fight Saladin for Jerusalem. You have been sidetracked and are now about to conquer the entirely Christian, Greek-speaking island of Cyprus, which was definitely not on the official itinerary. You land your army at Limassol. The fighting is swift and brutal. Your professional, battle-hardened crusaders are far superior to Isaac's local militia. You capture the city with ease. Isaac flees into the interior of the island. In the midst of this chaotic, impromptu invasion, you decide it's the perfect time to get married. This is an obscure but telling historical fact. Your fiancée, Berengaria, is now safely with you. Your mother, Eleanor, had arranged the match to secure an alliance with the Kingdom of Navarre, on the border of your own Duchy of Aquitaine. The true nature of your marriage to Berengaria is a mystery. Was it a purely political arrangement that you entered into with reluctance, or was there some degree of personal affection? The fact that you will spend almost none of your married life with her, and will produce no children, suggests the former. In a grand chapel in Limassol, on May 12, 1191, with your army still fighting in the hills, you are married. It is not a grand state affair, but a hasty, functional ceremony in the middle of a war zone. After the wedding, you get back to the business of conquering. You hunt Isaac Komnenos across the island. He eventually surrenders, begging you not to put him in iron chains. In a moment of supreme, sarcastic cruelty, you agree. You have him put in chains made of silver instead. You have now conquered a wealthy and strategically important island. It is a stunning, if completely unplanned, military victory. But it has also cost you weeks of precious time. While you have been busy becoming the King of Cyprus, your rival, King Philip of France, has already sailed on and arrived at the great Siege of Acre in the Holy Land. He is gaining glory, taking command of the Crusader forces, while you are still stuck on another Mediterranean island, dealing with the consequences of your own violent detour. This new, accidental piece of your empire will now become a logistical headache and a source of political conflict for years to come. Congratulations on your victory. You are now even further behind schedule on your holy war. You have conquered and married your way across the Mediterranean. It is now June of 1191, and you, King Richard the Lionheart, finally arrive in the Holy Land. You are greeted not by a glorious open field of battle, but by the sight of the most miserable, sprawling, and disease-ridden military camp in the world. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your great, glorious crusade is, in reality, a bogged-down, deeply unpleasant, and profoundly boring siege. This is the major historical fact that defines the start of your holy war. The combined Christian armies of Europe have been stuck outside the walls of the strategic port city of Acre for nearly 2 years. It is a brutal, grinding stalemate. The Christian camp is a massive, filthy, makeshift city of its own, rife with sickness and despair. And in a bizarre twist of military strategy, The Christian army besieging the Muslim-held city of Acre is, in turn, surrounded and besieged by the main field army of Saladin. It is a strange and deadly double siege, a war of attrition where both sides are slowly starving and dying of disease. You have arrived late to a very, very bad party. Your arrival is met with wild cheers. You are the hero, the savior, the man who will finally break the deadlock. But your first act in the Holy Land is not one of heroic battle. It is one of profound, personal misery. Almost immediately upon your arrival in the unsanitary Crusader camp, you fall violently ill. The exact nature of your illness is unknown. The chronicles call it arnalgia, a generic term for a severe fever. Modern historians speculate it could have been a form of scurvy, trench fever, or some other pestilential camp-borne disease. Whatever it was, it is a deeply unheroic and humiliating start to your holy war. You, the Lionheart, spend your first weeks in the Holy Land in a sickbed, delirious with fever, suffering from a condition that purportedly caused all of your hair and even your fingernails to fall out. While you are incapacitated, your great rival, King Philip of France, who arrived a few weeks before you, is busy taking command and winning glory. A callback to your festering rivalry, the crusade now becomes a very petty competition. You may be too sick to stand, but you can still command from your bed. You hear that Philip is offering his soldiers a wage of 3 gold pieces a month. You, from your sickbed, immediately announce that you will pay for gold pieces to any knight, regardless of their nationality, who will fight for you. You are using your vast personal fortune, a callback to the money you squeezed out of England to steal soldiers from your own allies. It is a holy war, but it is also a very petty construction and recruitment competition. The real heroes of this siege are not the knights, but the engineers. The victory at Acre is not won by cavalry charges, but by the slow, methodical, and boring work of building massive stone-throwing siege engines, or trebuchets. You and Philip compete to build the biggest and best machines. Philip builds his, you build yours, which you name God's own catapult. Day after day, these great machines hurl enormous stones at the walls of Acre, slowly, painstakingly, grinding the city's formidable defenses into dust. Finally, in July, after a brutal month-long assault, the city of Acre surrenders. It is a massive victory for the Crusade, but it is a victory that is immediately tainted by the bitter rivalries and brutal acts that have defined the siege. King Philip, who has had enough of the heat, the disease, and, most of all, you, declares that his crusading vow is fulfilled. He takes his army and he goes home to France, leaving you as the sole commander of the Third Crusade. He also, on his way out, makes a solemn vow that he will not attack your lands in France while you are away. This is a promise he has absolutely no intention of keeping. You have won the great city of Acre, but you are still recovering from a debilitating illness. Your most important ally has just abandoned you, and you are left in command of a fractious, exhausted, and deeply divided Christian army. And what happens next will forever stain your reputation and reveal the brutal, unchivalrous reality that lay beneath your poetic, troubadour exterior. The fall of Acre is a great victory, but the bitter rivalries and brutal acts that took place here have poisoned the crusade from within, leading to a decision that will haunt your name forever. You have conquered Acre. It is a great victory, but a messy one. A callback to your frustrating alliance, your rival, King Philip of France, has packed his bags and gone home, leaving you in sole command of a fractious and exhausted Crusader army. You are now faced with the tedious and deeply unglamorous work of negotiating the terms of the city's surrender with your great adversary, Saladin. The agreement is simple. You hold the 2,700 men of the Muslim garrison as prisoners. Saladin, in exchange, will pay you a massive ransom of 200,000 gold dinars. Release hundreds of Christian prisoners he holds, and, most importantly, return the sacred relic of the true cross, which he had captured at the disastrous Battle of Hattin. You now enter into a new phase of the crusade, a long, frustrating, and deeply bureaucratic negotiation process. Weeks pass, you wait. Saladin, a master of delay and diplomacy, sends messengers with promises, but the full payment does not arrive. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your life is now a miserable waiting game, a logistical and political nightmare. You have a massive, hungry army to feed. You also have 2,700 prisoners who need to be fed and guarded, a significant drain on your already strained resources. And you cannot march south towards your ultimate goal, Jerusalem, while dragging this entire captive army with you. You are stuck, and you are not a patient man. Your exact motives for what you do next are still debated by historians. Was it a cold-blooded act of strategic terror, designed to show Saladin you were a man who could not be trifled with? Was it a pragmatic, if brutal, military decision made by a commander who could no longer afford to be delayed? Or was it simply a monumental fit of the infamous Angevin rage, a burst of furious impatience from a man who despised being kept waiting? It was, in all likelihood, a grim combination of all three. On August 20th, 1191, after Saladin misses a final deadline, you decide that the negotiations are over. This is a major and horrifying historical fact that will forever stain your chivalrous reputation. You order all 2,700 Muslim prisoners from the Acre garrison to be marched out of the city to a small hill, in full view of Saladin's own army, which is camped a few miles away. You are about to violate one of the central, unwritten rules of medieval warfare. The capturing and ransoming of noble prisoners was a standard and profitable business practice. It was an obscure but vital part of the chivalric code. You are about to burn that code to the ground. With Saladin's horrified army watching from a distance, your crusader soldiers, at your command, fall upon the bound and helpless prisoners. They are all methodically executed. It is a horrifying act of mass murder. It is also, in your mind, a clear and efficient way of communicating to Saladin that you are no longer willing to wait for your delivery. It is the 12th century equivalent of cancelling a late order in the most brutal way imaginable. This act of brutality will define your reputation in the Muslim world for all time. You are no longer just the great king from the West. You are Melikric, Richard the King, a name that will be associated with a terrifying, almost inhuman, cruelty. You are a butcher. The massacre solves your logistical problem. You no longer have thousands of prisoners to feed or guard. Your army is now free to march. But the act has a profound and chilling effect on the rest of the war. There will be no more easy surrenders. There will be little quarter given on either side. You have just declared that this is not a chivalrous war for honor, but a war of annihilation. This is the sucky reality of your glorious crusade. It is not a clean, heroic adventure from a troubadour's song, a callback to the culture of your youth. It is a grim, ugly, and morally compromising business. You, the poet king, the Lionheart, the supposed paragon of chivalry, have just personally ordered a cold-blooded war crime. You have done so for reasons that you believe are practical and necessary. But in the process, you have revealed the hard, ruthless, and terrifying core that lies beneath your polished, heroic exterior. You are your father's son, a man who will do whatever it takes to win, no matter the cost to your enemies or to your own soul. The massacre at Acre is complete. You have solved your logistical problem and sent a terrifying message to Saladin. You are now free to begin the primary objective of the Third Crusade, the march south to recapture the holy city of Jerusalem. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your grand, glorious march to the holy city is, in reality, a slow, agonizing, and deeply unpleasant death march down a hostile coast under a blazing sun. It is a journey of about 80 miles to the port of Jaffa, your next strategic objective. At the pace you will be forced to go, it will take you a full month. This is a major historical fact of your campaign. You begin your march in late August, 1191. It is the hottest and most miserable time of the year in the Levant. You are a man from the cool, green fields of northern France, and you are leading an army of Europeans, all of whom are wearing multiple layers of thick cloth and heavy chainmail. The sun is a merciless, white-hot hammer in the sky. Your men begin to fall from heat stroke almost immediately. The glorious crusade is mostly a long, sweaty, and profoundly unpleasant walk along a very hot beach. And you are not alone. As your army marches south in a tight, disciplined column, Saladin's much larger army emerges from the hills and begins to shadow you. He does not offer you the grand, chivalrous, pitched battle you crave. He is too smart for that. Instead, he subjects you to a masterful campaign of constant, grinding harassment. This is where you encounter the brutal efficiency of the Turkish mounted archers, an obscure but terrifying reality of Crusader warfare. They are a cloud of horsemen, fast and light. They ride in close to your marching column, fire a volley of deadly arrows into your dense ranks of men, and then immediately wheel and gallop away, out of range of your heavy, slow-moving knights and crossbowmen. It is the 12th century equivalent of being relentlessly attacked by a swarm of very angry, very well-armed mosquitoes. The attacks never stop. They come at dawn, they come at midday, they come in the evening. It is a form of psychological warfare. The constant hiss of incoming arrows, the screams of men struck down at random, the frustration of being unable to strike back at an enemy who refuses to stand and fight it begins to fray the nerves of even your most veteran soldiers. Your only defense is iron discipline. The effectiveness of your tight marching formation was either a brilliant tactical innovation you devised for the Asolo situation or an adaptation of standard Byzantine military doctrine. Either way, it is the key to your army's survival. You order your men to march in a tight, rectangular box formation. The infantry, with their heavy shields and spears, march on the outside, exposed to the enemy, forming a moving wall. The precious, and more vulnerable, cavalry and baggage march in the protected center. You march with the sea on your right flank, protecting you from that side, while your fleet sails alongside you, providing a constant source of supplies. You forbid your men from breaking formation to chase the horse archers, no matter how tempting the provocation. To do so would be to be lured into an ambush and destroyed, piece by piece. So you endure. You march a few miles each day, get shot at, make a fortified camp for the night, tend to your wounded, bury your dead, and then you wake up and do it all over again. It is a miserable, soul-crushing routine. The glory of the crusade has vanished, replaced by a grim, daily struggle for survival. A callback to the massacre at Acre. You realize that your own brutality has created an equally ruthless response in your enemy. Saladin is now determined to bleed you, to harass you, to break you, every single step of the way to Jerusalem. This long, agonizing march will test your army's discipline, and your own will, to its absolute limit. It will all culminate in a single, decisive battle. A battle you must win if you are to have any hope of reaching your final, holy goal. You have been marching for a month, under a relentless sun and a constant rain of arrows. Your army, though disciplined, is at its breaking point. The men are exhausted, wounded, and deeply frustrated by this war of harassment, where they can never truly strike back at their tormentors. After a month of being used as a moving archery target, your army's legendary discipline is beginning to fray. The Knights Hospitaller, the elite military order holding the vulnerable rear of your column, are getting very, very annoyed. They are holy warriors, and their patience for being shot at by men on smaller horses without the courtesy of a proper battle is officially exhausted. On the 7th of September, 1191, as you march past the great forest of Arsif, Saladin decides the time is right to strike. He launches his entire army in a full-scale assault, hoping to break your column and annihilate your army once and for all. This is the moment you have been planning for. You have a detailed, carefully timed plan for a coordinated counterattack. But just as the main assault begins, your plan is thrown into chaos by your own men. This is a major historical fact, and the most critical moment of your campaign. The Knights Hospitaller, goaded beyond all human endurance by the Turkish horse archers, finally snap. Screaming in a furious rage, they break formation and launch a premature, unauthorized charge directly at the enemy. Your entire, carefully constructed battle plan has just been thrown into chaos by your own insubordinate elite troops. It is a commander's worst nightmare. Whether the Hospitaller's charge was a genuine, spontaneous act of frustration, or a more calculated move by their Grandmaster to seize a tactical opportunity he saw before you did, is a point of contention. But from your perspective, it is an act of catastrophic disobedience that could get you all killed. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. Your own legendary warriors are almost as difficult to control as the enemy. But it is in this moment of absolute chaos that your true military genius shines. You do not panic. You do not punish the Hospitallers. You adapt. In a split second, you see that their reckless charge, while disobedient, has created an opportunity. You make a decision. You order the entire army to attack. You turn their breach of discipline into the signal for your grand, coordinated assault. You unleash your own heavy cavalry, the French knights, and your own Angevin retainers. In a thunderous charge that supports the now overextended Hospitallers, you turn this chaotic, piecemeal engagement into the decisive, pitched battle you have been waiting for. You lead the charge yourself, a whirlwind of royal fury, your great battle-axe rising and falling. The battle is not an elegant affair of chivalrous duels. It is a brutal, hacking, close-quarters melee. It is a storm of dust, sweat, and blood under the searing Palestinian sun. Your disciplined, heavily armored knights are a force of nature. They smash into Saladin's lighter cavalry and infantry, breaking their lines. The battle, which could have been a disaster for you, turns into a stunning, crushing victory. You have defeated Saladin's main army in a major pitched battle. It is the greatest Christian field victory of the entire Third Crusade. It is also a messy, chaotic, improvised battle that you almost lost because your own men stopped listening to you. It is a very stressful way to win. In the aftermath, you survey the field. You have won, but you have not destroyed Saladin's army. They have been bloodied and beaten, but they have withdrawn in good order. They will be back, and the road to Jerusalem is still long and fraught with peril. This great victory, you will soon discover, has not actually solved any of your fundamental problems. You have proven you are a brilliant battlefield commander, but you are still a foreign king, leading an exhausted, fractious army deep in enemy territory. With a long and very difficult war still ahead of you, the glory of the victory is real, but so is the profound, wearying knowledge of how close you came to total disaster. You have won the Battle of Arsuf. It is a great and glorious victory, a testament to your tactical genius and the iron discipline of your army. You have proven that Saladin's forces can be beaten in an open, pitched battle. You march your army into the port city of Jaffa and begin the long, tedious process of rebuilding its fortifications. You are now just a few days' march from your ultimate goal. The very reason for this entire bloody enterprise, the holy city of Jerusalem, and it is here, within sight of your prize, that you will suffer the greatest and most profound failure of your life. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You will come to the very gates of the holy city, but you will never enter it as a conqueror. In the winter of 1191, you decide the time is right. You lead your Crusader army out of Jaffa and begin the final advance on Jerusalem. But the gods of war, who were with you at Arsuf, have now abandoned you. The weather turns. The sunny, arid landscape of your coastal march is replaced by a cold, miserable, and relentless downpour. You are attempting to lead a medieval army, with its heavy cavalry and wagons of supplies, through the Judean hills in the middle of the winter rainy season. Your glorious crusade immediately bogs down in a sea of thick, clanging mud. The roads dissolve into impassable quagmires. Horses slip and break their legs. Wagons become hopelessly stuck. Your soldiers, dressed in chainmail that is now rusting in the constant damp, are freezing, miserable, and increasingly sick. The food supplies are running low. The holy war has devolved into a slow, sodden, and deeply unglamorous camping trip in a swamp. Despite the horrific conditions, your sheer willpower pushes the army forward. You finally reach the town of Beit Nuba, just 12 miles from Jerusalem. From the hilltops, you can see it. You can see the distant towers and walls of the holy city, the goal of your entire life's ambition. And it is here, at the moment of your apparent triumph, that you are forced to stop. You call a council of war with your leading barons and the masters of the military orders. This is an obscure but vital detail. You are the great leader, but you cannot act alone. You must have the consent of this council. And the council is deeply, deeply pessimistic. They lay out the grim, boring, and inarguable logic of your situation. Even if you manage to drag your exhausted, half-starved army through the final miles of mud and lay siege to Jerusalem, how will you take it? Saladin has poisoned all the wells around the city. You have no reliable source of fresh water for your men or horses. The walls of Jerusalem are formidable, and you do not have the heavy siege equipment you used at Acre. And even if, by some miracle, you manage to capture the city, what then? The vast majority of the Crusaders, their holy vow fulfilled, will immediately pack their bags and go home. You will be left with a handful of knights to defend a massive hostile city, deep in enemy territory, surrounded on all sides by Saladin's vast empire. They tell you that capturing Jerusalem is possible, but holding it is a strategic impossibility. It is a holy war, but it is being run by a risk-averse committee, and they have just voted against you. The famous story, a powerful image of your personal anguish, is that you, upon hearing this final, logical verdict, covered your face with your shield. You reportedly said that you were unworthy to look upon the city which you could not rescue. Whether this event actually happened as described is uncertain, but it perfectly captures the profound, soul-crushing sense of failure that must have gripped you. You have come 3,000 miles. You have spent a colossal fortune. You have fought, you have bled, you have endured, and you have been defeated, not by Saladin's sword, but by bad weather and a series of very sensible logistical arguments. You give the order. The army is to turn back. It is the most anticlimactic and heartbreaking moment of your life. And to make matters infinitely worse, while you have been stuck in the mud in the Holy Land, arguing with your own men, you receive terrible news from home. A callback to your dysfunctional family, your treacherous younger brother, John, hearing a false rumor of your death, is now actively trying to steal your throne in England. With the gleeful support of your old rival, King Philip of France, your problems, you are beginning to realize, are piling up on both sides of the known world. You have turned back from the very gates of Jerusalem. The taste of this failure is a bitter ash in your mouth. To make matters worse, the news from home is dire. A callback to your dysfunctional family, your treacherous younger brother, John, is actively plotting with your great rival, King Philip of France, to seize your throne in England and your lands in Normandy. You are stuck in the Holy Land, your crusade stalled, while your own empire begins to crumble behind your back. This is the next reason it sucks to be you. You are now fighting a war on two fronts, separated by an entire sea, and you are losing on both. Your situation is desperate. Your army is exhausted, ravaged by disease, and deeply demoralized by the failure to march on the holy city. You, yourself, are sick again. Another bout of the debilitating fever known as Saladin, seeing your weakness and the divisions in your camp, decides to strike. He launches a surprise attack on the crucial port city of Jaffa, which your forces had recently captured. The situation is critical. If Jaffa falls, your army will be cut off from its fleet, trapped. It is in this moment of absolute crisis that you perform your last great, almost superhuman, act of heroism in the Holy Land. Though you are still weak with fever, you lead a small, elite force of knights and crossbowmen by sea and land on a desperate relief mission. You arrive at Jaffa to find the city mostly fallen, with only a small remnant of the garrison holding out in the citadel. In a move of breathtaking, reckless bravery, you leap from your own ship into the surf and wade ashore. Your great battle-axe in hand, leading a charge that smashes into the surprised Saracen forces on the beach. Your presence alone, the sight of the legendary Melicric appearing as if from the sea, is enough to rally the defenders and throw the enemy into confusion. You retake the city. A few days later, Saladin counterattacks with his main army. You have only a handful of knights and about 2,000 infantry. You are catastrophically outnumbered. But you display a tactical genius that is legendary. You fight a brilliant defensive battle, using a wall of shields and spears to repulse charge after charge of the Mamluk cavalry. You ride up and down the lines yourself, a whirlwind of energy, inspiring your men. You win another stunning, impossible victory. But it is a victory that wins you nothing. You are still sick, your army is a shattered remnant, and you are still no closer to taking Jerusalem. Saladin is also weary of the war. This leads to a strange, chivalrous, and obscure detail of your relationship. Throughout this brutal war, you and Saladin, though mortal enemies, have developed a grudging, almost courtly respect for one another. You have exchanged gifts. He famously sent you fresh fruit and snow from the mountains to cool your fever during your illness. Now, you open negotiations. In September of 1192, you agree to the Treaty of Jaffa. This is a major historical fact, and the anticlimactic end of the Third Crusade. It is a 3-year truce. The coastal cities you have conquered, from Acre to Jaffa, will remain in Christian hands, but Jerusalem will remain under the control of Saladin. The one concession you win is that unarmed Christian pilgrims will be guaranteed safe passage to visit the holy sites in the city. You have essentially gone from being a world-conquering crusader to a very well-armed travel agent, securing tourism rights for your subjects. Your great crusade, The obsession that you taxed your kingdom to ruin for is over. It is a failure. You have not recaptured the holy city. You have not broken Saladin's power. You have merely secured a temporary, fragile peace. You now must race home to deal with your treacherous brother. But the direct sea route is controlled by your enemies. You must travel in secret, in disguise, hoping that no one recognizes the most famous, most recognizable, and now most widely hated Christian king in Europe. This long, secret, and deeply humiliating journey home will not be the end of your troubles. It will be the beginning of a whole new, and even more miserable, chapter of your life. Your great crusade is over. It is a bitter, incomplete enterprise. You sail from the Holy Land in the autumn of 1192. A sick and weary man, desperate to get back to your own kingdom to deal with the treason of your brother, John. But this is the final and most humiliating reason it sucks to be you. Your journey home will be even more disastrous than your holy war. You, the 6'4", famously red-headed King of England, decide to travel home in disguise as a humble merchant, hoping to slip through a Europe filled with your enemies. It is a terrible disguise. You are about as inconspicuous as a giraffe in a chicken coop. You are shipwrecked in the Adriatic. You are forced to travel overland. And, of course, you are almost immediately recognized and captured near Vienna by your sworn enemy, Duke Leopold of Austria, a man you personally insulted by tearing down his banner at the Siege of Acre. You are now a prisoner. The great Lionheart, the terror of the Saracens, has been captured not in a glorious battle, but like a common fugitive, in a kitchen in a small village. You are handed over to the Holy Roman Emperor, Henry VI, who sees you as a massive financial windfall. You spend the next year and a half being moved from one cold, damp German castle to another, a callback to your restless energy. Your life is now one of profound, soul-crushing boredom, punctuated by tense negotiations over the price of your own head. Meanwhile, your brother John and your old rival King, Philip of France, are actively trying to bribe the emperor to either keep you in prison forever or to simply hand you over to them. Your own family is now trying to purchase you so they can destroy you. Back in England, your formidable mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine, works tirelessly to save you. This is a major historical fact. The emperor demands a ransom of 150,000 silver marks, an absolutely astronomical sum, equal to more than twice the entire annual income of the English crown. To raise it, Eleanor is forced to tax England into utter poverty. A special 25% tax is levied on all income and property. Churches are forced to melt down their sacred golden and silver chalices. Your subjects are bled dry to pay for the release of a king they barely know. A man who has spent his entire reign using their kingdom as a treasury to fund his foreign adventures. Finally, in 1194, the ransom is paid. You are released. You return to England. You stay for approximately 2 months. You are crowned a second time. A theatrical ceremony to erase the shame of your captivity. You efficiently raise more money and men for a new army. And then you leave England, the country you are king of, and you never, ever return for the rest of your life. You spend your final 5 years doing what you truly love, fighting a relentless, grinding, and expensive war in France against your old enemy, King Philip, to protect your ancestral lands in Normandy and Aquitaine. And it is here that your story ends, not in a great battle, but with a final, pathetic whimper. In 1199, while besieging the minor, rebellious castle of Chalais-Chabrol, you are walking along the siege lines without your chainmail. A lone crossbowman on the ramparts, some say a young boy, fires a bolt at you. it hits you in the shoulder. The wound is not immediately fatal, but the surgeon who removes the bolt botches the job. The wound becomes infected. Gangrene sets in, and so your story ends, not with a roar, but with a fever. You lie in your tent for days, in agony, your great, strong body consumed by a slow, septic fire. You, Richard the Lionheart, the greatest warrior of your age, the hero of the Third Crusade, are killed not by Saladin, not by a great king in a mighty battle, but by a random crossbow bolt from a nameless soldier at a forgotten castle, and by an unhygienic surgeon. It is a deeply mundane and inglorious end to a life lived in search of glory. You fought your family, you bled a kingdom dry. You battled the greatest sultan of the age, and you died over a petty dispute in the French countryside. The sucky reality of your life is that, for all your legendary strength and courage, you were just another restless, violent man. A king who loved war more than he loved his own kingdom, forever chasing a glory that you could never quite hold on to.